Good evening and welcome to the Hairenik Media Newscast, bringing you the latest from the homeland and the diaspora. A two-day conference of the Armenian Revolutionary Federation Central Committees was held in Yerevan on November 15th and 16th, bringing together representatives from 13 countries. Invited by the ARF Bureau, delegates discussed the main challenges facing the Armenian diaspora and worked on outlining a strategy to strengthen cooperation among ARF structures worldwide. The conference placed particular emphasis on the steps needed to address the issues confronting Armenians globally, stressing the importance of coordinated, consistent work. Participants also highlighted the need for pan-Armenian unity as a key factor in reinforcing the Armenian people and Armenia's statehood. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan announced that documents related to past negotiations over Artsakh will be released before the end of the year. His statement came in response to renewed criticism from former Presidents Robert Kocharyan and Serge Sargsyan, who accused him of mishandling the talks and contributing to Armenia's defeat in the 2020 war. In a Facebook post, Pashinyan claimed the comments by his predecessors proved that the Artsakh issue had long been used by certain forces to keep Armenia constrained. He said concepts like people's rights and historical justice were often used to mask what he describes as the real underlying goals. He went on to make the controversial assertion that under that scenario, the crisis in Artsakh could have ended only with the loss of Armenia's statehood. In Baku, prosecutors have entered the final phase of Azerbaijan's sham trial of detained political and military leaders of Artsakh, calling for some of the heaviest penalties yet. Life imprisonment has been requested for 5 former officials: President Araik Harutyunyan, Army Commander Levon Mnatsakhanyan, National Assembly Speaker David Ishkhanyan, Deputy Commander David Manukyan, and Foreign Minister David Balayan. The prosecution highlighted David Ishkhanyan's longtime membership in the ARF, which Azerbaijani authorities characterize as promoting ethnic hatred, and accused him of serving as a battalion commander and participating in military operations from 1989 to 2023. For former Presidents Bako Sahakyan and Arkady Gukasyan, both over 65, prosecutors are seeking 20-year sentences. Several other former ministers, generals, and civilians also face life terms of lengthy imprisonment. The trial has been widely criticized by observers and human rights organizations as politically motivated and lacking due process. Critics say the proceedings aim to criminalize Artsakh's leadership and population, and note that 23 Armenians remain in Azerbaijani custody. Debate over the 2026 state budget in the National Assembly escalated into a heated exchange between the authorities and the opposition. Opposition MPs Artur Khachatryan and Anna Grigoryan criticized the government for nearly doubling the state debt since 2018, bringing it to $15 billion, while in their view producing only modest results. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan responded that the debt increase was unavoidable, claiming it stemmed largely from the purchase of weapons. He also used the moment to accuse opposition members and senior church figures of acting as agents of influence for foreign states. Opposition MP Gegham Manukyan, meanwhile, pointed to the planned reduction in military spending, arguing that the move sends political signals to Turkey and Azerbaijan. Speaking on the report examining the circumstances of the 44-day war, MP Gegham Manukyan said the classified section contains what he described as shameful minutes. According to him, these records indicate that in 2018, Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan appointed an individual to a high-ranking military post on highly questionable grounds. He added that another minute suggests a senior military figure may have been acting as an agent and influence for a foreign state. Manukyan also pointed to minutes showing that multi-million-dollar military procurements were carried out despite warnings, including the purchase of an air defense system that produced no results. He asked what steps were being taken to address these issues. Andranik Kocharyan, chair of the National Assembly Committee on Defense and Security Affairs, responded that the investigative committee has already discussed possible solutions. MPs Lilit Galestyan and Artur Khachatryan of the opposition Armenia faction held a press conference summarizing the parliamentary week. Khachatryan criticized the 2026 draft state budget as a budget of failures, saying government economic policies have caused growth to fall to 5.2 to 5.4%, far below promised targets. He highlighted Armenia's state debt, now over $15 billion and expected to exceed 6 trillion dirhams in 2026, and pointed to more than 330,000 bad loans in the financial system. Khachaturian also noted that 3/4 of Armenians earn below the average wage. MP Lilit Galestyan condemned the ongoing trials of Armenian military and political leaders in Baku as sham proceedings, calling them a further blow after the loss of Artsakh. She criticized Armenian authorities for a total denialist stance and condemned civil contract deputies for opposing the inclusion of Armenian prisoners in an OSCE resolution, labeling it immoral. Domestically, Galestyan criticized the education sector, noting that only 59 of the promised 300 schools have been completed and that budget execution has not exceeded 40% over the past 4 years. Both deputies portrayed the current administration as neglecting national security, economic stability, and social responsibilities. Armenia's law enforcement bodies, increasingly described by critics as tools in Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan's campaign to suppress dissent, have intensified arrests of opposition bloggers, journalists, and podcast hosts. National Security Service officers detained Imnemnimi podcast host Narek Simonyan and Vasken Sagatelian after searches at their homes, during which their lawyer, Ruben Melikyan, said he was denied entry. Footage circulating online shows officers using force. Their arrest followed a complaint by National Assembly Speaker Alen Simonyan, who claimed the two had threatened him during a recent broadcast. They were later charged with hooliganism, a statute observers say is routinely used to stifle criticism. Also taken into custody was blogger Onni Karutyunyan, a supporter of the opposition Mother Armenia Party, over comments made during a TikTok livestream about civil contract party official Argishti Mehakyan, the interim mayor of Vagharshapat. Their outlet, Antifake.am, and a journalist colleague also had equipment seized. Rights groups and analysts described the arrests as clear cases of political persecution, warning that Armenian authorities are weaponizing criminal law to silence opposition voices. Critics also note the striking silence of many diasporan figures and organizations, arguing that entities once outspoken on democratic and rule of law issues now remain quiet as Armenia moves toward what they describe as its most authoritarian period since independence. International concern is growing over Armenia's treatment of the Armenian Apostolic Church, as religious leaders and human rights advocates warn of escalating pressure on one of the country's core national institutions. At a press conference in Yerevan, John Eibner, international president of Christian Solidarity International, said that while the people of Nagorno-Karabakh had faced religious cleansing, Armenia itself now confronts an existential threat. He emphasized that the Armenian Apostolic Church is facing a serious crisis, citing demands for the resignation of the Catholicos, arrests of high-ranking clergy, and broader persecution of church members. Eibner stressed that the church, historically central to Armenian identity, along with other key institutions, is under growing pressure. Concerns were amplified during the recent Armenia Prayer Breakfast, which drew criticism from Armenian and international organizations, accusing the government of using a religious event for political purposes. The Armenian National Committee of America condemned it as a political image-building exercise and cautioned American faith leaders and policymakers about participating. At the prayer breakfast, international religious leaders and human rights advocates urged the Armenian authorities to release detained clergy. Christian Solidarity International's Joel Veldkamp had earlier issued a public video message from Republic Square.
Sadly, not all is well in Armenia. Since June, the Armenian government has imprisoned 4 members of the Armenian clergy and more than 20 supporters of the Armenian church. And Armenian human rights groups are telling us that the charges against these people are sometimes falsified, sometimes really trumped up. In other words, it's quite clear that these are political detentions. These are political prisoners.
Together, these coordinated appeals reflect growing international concern, with observers warning that Armenia's continued suppression of church leaders risks damaging its democratic credentials and straining relationships with global partners. At the UK Parliament, Lord Jackson of Peterborough hosted a session titled Armenia's Authoritarian Turn: The Persecution of the Armenian Apostolic Holy Church. Panelists, including international lawyer Robert Amsterdam, academic Peter Flew, and Bishop Hovakim Manukyan, examined the government's growing pressure on the church. Speakers stressed that targeting the church, a pillar of Armenian identity and culture, is an assault on fundamental freedoms and called for international accountability and vigilance. French member of the European Parliament Marie Toussaint has submitted a written question to European Commissioner Kaja Kallas, raising concern over Armenian hostages facing sham trials in Azerbaijan. She highlighted worsening health, lack of medical care, prolonged isolation, and politically motivated prosecutions, especially after the closure of the ICRC office in Baku. Toussaint asked the Commission to monitor upcoming trials, ensure humanitarian access and independent medical checks, and update the European Parliament and the public on Azerbaijan's compliance with international obligations. Yesterday, local council elections were held in Vagharshapat across 47 polling stations in the enlarged community that includes Echmiadzin, Khoy, and Voskehat. According to preliminary results, 3 political forces are in the lead: the ruling Civil Contract Party, the opposition Victory Alliance, and the opposition Mother Armenian National Democratic Party. Voter participation in the elections reached 45%, a significant increase compared to 27% in 2021. Despite the improvement, turnout remains slightly below the 2025 national average for local elections, which stood at 47%. The Central Electoral Commission reported 23 cases of discrepancies and registered 132 invalid ballots across the precincts. Baku is actively promoting the return of Azerbaijanis to Armenia, hosting events to advance this agenda. Azerbaijani media report that the conference, The Right of Return in the Context of International Peace and Cooperation, has opened in the city, aiming to examine the right of people forcibly displaced from so-called Western Azerbaijan to return to their homeland in the context of human rights, international law, and regional security. Observers note that the conference follows a 2023 blockade and near total displacement of Armenians from Artsakh. With the Armenian government remaining largely silent on the right of return for Artsakh residents, analysts say Azerbaijan is using the event to lay the groundwork for resettling the 300,000 Azerbaijanis referenced by President Aliyev. Turkish media has reported that at the request of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has granted approval for the construction of 10 mosques in Armenia. The plan calls for 5 mosques to be built in border areas and the remaining 5 in various cities across the country. Sources stated that Erdogan sees this initiative as an opportunity to strengthen the ties between the two countries. It is also reported that Pashinyan is favorable towards the project and has even ensured funding through the Ministry of Education, Science, Culture, and Sports. In local news, a community forum titled The Armenian Diaspora, Current Conditions, Future Prospects, was held in New Jersey, organized by the Armenian National Committee of New Jersey and St. Leon Armenian Church, with co-sponsorship from the National Association for Armenian Studies and Research and the Kalus Gulbenkian Foundation. The event featured presentations by ARF Bureau member Khajak Mgrdicyan and scholars Khachik Tololian and Haik Oshagan, with moderation by Antrani Kasparian and Ara Araz. Mgrdicyan outlined the historical forces that shaped the Armenian diaspora and emphasized the ARF's ongoing role and responsibility in addressing diaspora needs. Professor Tololian examined the structure and components of the diaspora, highlighting the importance of identity and cultural awareness. Professor Oshagan argued that the diaspora is often mistakenly treated as temporary, while in reality it is permanent. He stressed that this misconception has hindered effective engagement and called for a reassessment of current strategies, emphasizing the need for greater material investment in the diaspora. Tonight, we're excited to talk about one of the most eagerly anticipated events for the Armenian community, the ACAA Armenian Heritage Cruise. Setting sail on January 10, 2026, this year's cruise will take place on the brand new state-of-the-art MSC World America. Joining us tonight to share all the details about the cruise program, destinations, and what's new this year is the ACAA Board Treasurer, Armenian Heritage Cruise Committee Chair, Mr. Steve Mesrobian. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Ani. Happy to be with you.
We're happy to have you. Steve, this year's cruise will be aboard the brand new state-of-the-art MSC World America. What makes this ship unique, and what can passengers look forward to experiencing on board?
That's a great question, Ani. There is so much to look forward to on this year's cruise. We've listened to our guests who in the past had said that they wanted a refresh from the celebrity cruise lines, more modern ship, something with more amenities, more things to keep them occupied and entertained. And so we listened. We are on a brand new ship that's almost twice the size of the Celebrity Reflection X that we used the last 2 years. The MSC World America was featured in a Super Bowl commercial last year. It launched this April, so it started sailing only a few months ago, and it's got room for over 6,000 passengers. It has an amazing 19 different dining venues, including the world's first Italy at Sea, which is a beautiful restaurant chain. It's got the largest MSC yacht club area on any MSC ship, which is a luxury set of suites with dedicated lounges, pools, concierge service. It's got a Zen area, which is an adult-only quiet deck and retreat in the aft part of the ship. It's also got an incredible shopping gallery and promenade area with LED ceilings that look like you're walking under the Tuscan moonlight. So it's got things for all adults, and it's got stuff for kids of all ages. There is a cliffhanger, which is an overwater slide that will put you 21 stories or floors over the side of the ship with your feet dangle and you swing out. I've ridden on it. It is exhilarating and more than a little nerve-wracking at the same time. There's also a jaw drop, which is an 11 deck dry slide that spirals you down from deck 21 to the promenade deck. There is a high trail ropes course. There's a huge water park and aqua park for kids. There's 6 different pools. There's whirlpools. There's bumper cars. There's a massive kids and teens area. They call it Doremiland. And it's a virtual reality lounge space, gaming, stuff for kids of all ages from teens on down. There is it's just a beautiful ship, and included in all this, the ship has many lounges, bars, things from sushi restaurants to Mexican cantinas to actual lounges on the ship, but there's entertainment around the clock. There's just so much to do that you won't have enough time to fit it all in the 6 nights around the ship.
Wow, that sounds truly amazing. Now, let's talk about the destinations. Which islands and ports will passengers be visiting, and what can they expect at each stop?
So we have 3 key stops. During the course of the cruise, we will be stopping first on Monday in Puerto Plata, which is in the Dominican Republic. We have rented out a beach resort, so our passengers will be able to take a round-trip bus to the resort area, the beach with the hotel. So we've got beachfront property with an area set up for an Armenian DJ, who's Barkev Sanosyan, who will be performing Armenian music from 11 to probably around 3. We'll be able to have take part in the buffet at the restaurant. We'll be able to have open bar while we're there. And there's a huge, wide, expansive beach with beach chairs, palm trees, all the drinks you can have and just enjoy yourself, which is our first stop. That's on Monday. Tuesday, we'll be moving the next day over to San Juan, Puerto Rico. And guests will be able to go and tour the island. And then the third stop that we have is the MSC Ocean Cay Marine Reserve. This is an island that MSC owns in the Bahamas, which is a beautiful scenic little island that has 2 different beach areas. We're going to have one area blocked off for our guests with beach chairs set up. We won't be able to put a DJ up. They don't allow us to have music playing, but we'll all be able to sit together again as a group. And there's snorkeling and swimming. You can get a windsurfer if you'd like. There's equipment you can rent along with swimming and just working on your tan the final day. So along with those 3 things, we've got 2 days at sea with 2 special programs. One is that Yerevan Avedisyan, the director from Artsakh, is going to be joining us, and he's going to be showing his film Gate to Heaven, followed by a question and answer session. And then we have unearthed a historic Armenian film from the 1930s called Melodies of Armenia. It was found in ARF archives, and we had it digitized. It used to be on 6 reels of celluloid film. We had it digitized, and then the ACAA commissioned a soundtrack, which has been so we put Armenian music to the film because it was a silent film. It's subtitled in French, and there's Armenian clips in there. So we'll be showing that as well, followed by some questions and answers. And we also have our standard Tavlu tournament, Belot tournament, and other programs that will keep our guests occupied while we're at sea for the 3 days we're at sea.
Of course, entertainment is always a highlight. What kind of shows, music, or special events will be featured on board this year?
So we have a star-studded lineup for our guests this year. We're very excited about it. We're headlined by Andrei Hovnanian from Artsakh, who's going to be performing a few nights. We have space in the lounge as well as the theater. So included in the programming will be Andrei Hovnanian performing, Gohar Hovanesyan from Armenia. We have a brand new up-and-coming entertainer, Hagop Gassabian from France, who performs lounge act, piano. He can play many musical instruments as well as Charles Aznavour songs. So we're excited. He's 21 years old and he is definitely a rising star. So we're happy to have him on board and joining us. We have our High Kami house band. And as a special guest treat, we are hosting the Hamaskine, New Jersey Nairi Dance Ensemble, who will be performing one night in the theater, along with doing some dance lessons. We also have our committee giving dance lessons for folks who want to learn some of the Armenian dances for the evening. As I had mentioned earlier, we have our Tavlu and Belot tournaments, the beach party that's taking place. And one other thing we have, which is something we've done the last few years, we're having a special luncheon for all ARS Ungetuis, Eastern region, Western region, Canada, to come together. Another treat that we have, which I haven't talked about, is that we've got over 80 people, 80 guests coming from Canada joining us this year. So we have a huge international component from Canada joining us, and we're very excited to have them along with our guests from the US and further out.
Sounds amazing and a lot for everyone to do. With the cruise just 8 weeks away, is it still possible for people to book a cabin? If yes, what's the best way for them to learn more and reserve their spots?
Yes, it absolutely is possible. So we still have cabins available, and when we sell out our block, we have sold out of ocean view cabins, but we still have yacht club, balcony, and some interior cabins. So when folks are interested, the best thing to do is to go to our website, www.armenianheritagecruise.com, where you'll be able to see the different cabin configurations, the price for the cabins, and then get the booking link to book with Travel Group International, who's our travel agency, our travel partners. And then you just dial the 800 number, reach out to Judith and book your cabin through Travel Group. So we anticipate adding cabins if needed. We're already above 600 guests, which is our largest turnout since COVID. This is our biggest event we've had since the COVID pandemic in 2021, and we're still adding guests. We booked over 100 guests in October alone, and we're expecting to continue seeing strong demand right up until the cruise. So for those of you who are interested in coming, those of you who are already sick of winter that hasn't even started yet, but it's getting colder and darker, come and join us in the Caribbean. January 10th to the 17th, you'll be able to enjoy a wonderful time on the MSC World America, cruising the high seas, stopping off at beach destinations, having wonderful food, Armenian music, Armenian culture and entertainment, meeting friends, old and new. We hope you guys can all join us and have a great time with us. We really look forward to hosting you all.
Thank you so much, Steve Mesrobian, ACAA Board Treasurer, Chairman of the Armenian Heritage Cruise Committee, for sharing these exciting details. The Armenian Heritage Cruise promises to be a truly memorable experience for all participants this January, and I personally am looking forward to attending with my family.
The Armenian Heritage Cruise 2026 promises unforgettable moments. From January 10th to 17th, the luxurious journey will depart from Miami aboard the exclusive MSC World America. Ports of call include Puerto Plata, San Juan, and Ocean Cay in the Bahamas. This magnificent voyage will be accompanied by an extraordinary cultural program featuring Andrei, Gohar Hovanesyan, Hago, the Nairi Hamaskine Dance Ensemble, and the Kef Band High Kami. There will also be dance lessons, Armenian fitness sessions, as well as Tavlu and Blot tournaments. Reserve your spot today.
That's all for tonight's broadcast. Thank you for joining, and don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X. Good night.